So you might be thinking it's too early to start fall renovations for cool season lawns, but actually right now would be the time to start getting some of that stuff started and also start thinking about the rest of the process. So today I wanted to give you the different things you need to be thinking about for fall renovations that's coming up quicker than you'd think. Let's talk about that. So the first thing, which may seem obvious to most, but sometimes people forget about this, is to make sure that you measure the area that you're going to be working on. So a lot of times people get really excited about their renovations, but they forget even the most basic part, which is knowing how much space you're going to be renovating and what that actual number is as far as square footage. Easily done, length by width. Just take out a tape measure out on the area that you want to work on and make sure you write that down. So going forward, you're going to know how much product you need and how much seed you're going to need. So then the next thing is to actually start the process of killing off the lawn that you have there or whatever's there. Sometimes this isn't even lawn anymore. Sometimes it's just a bunch of weeds or whatever's there. This needs to actually start a lot earlier than you think. Now you can do it later in the season and you can still be successful, but if you want to make sure that you have everything removed before you put down the new seed, starting in mid to late July is a good time frame. The reason for this is that you can get an application down, spray what's there, wait a few weeks to see if you missed any spots or if there's any weeds coming back out that you need to spray again. Making sure that you have a clean slate before you put the seed down is just going to make it better in the long run. So instead of going through that entire process here in this video, I do have a separate video talks just about how to do this whole process. I've done it multiple times now, so there's actually a few different videos you can check out. That's going to tell you what products I used, what the process is, so check out that. I'll link it right here. So actually, if you're not getting any rainfall after this first spray, you're actually going to want to water the lawn some. Try to get some of those weeds to come back out. Whatever areas you might have possibly missed with spray, those will turn very green and the rest of it will start to get very brown and you'll know which spots you need to spray again. Sometimes you have a lot of weeds that come back through and you want to make sure to get rid of these before you actually put down your new seed. So it might seem very strange as the lawn gets really brown that you're going to be watering it a little bit. It doesn't have to be an extreme amount. Actually, light and frequent applications probably brings out more weeds than maybe what you were doing typically for heavier watering. So light applications of water is going to bring out some of this stuff, and then you're going to spray again to make sure everything is gone. Now the third thing is vitally important, and that is the seed, obviously. This is the basis for your lawn going forward, so I always stress on this step. Do not skimp out on this step, because what's going to happen is you're going to go through all of this work of all this renovation, and then in the end, if you're not happy with the grass seed that you put down, that's okay. It's not the end of the world, but you're going to have to do this process again. So don't skip out on the grass seed, because this is the moment right now when you can take the best seed possible and put it in your lawn, and I can promise you from all the renovations that I've done, that is going to change how everything looks going forward. A lot of people ask me how I achieved the lawn that I have right now, and the main thing has been the seed that I used. Of course, there's different products, practices, and things that go into it, but in order to have the best lawn possible, you have to have the best grass seed put in there. So this year I do have a whole grass seed lineup of my own brand. I picked out a bunch of different things to put in here that are the best of the best cultivars, but if you want to find something locally, there's probably not going to have this stuff at the box stores. I would go to a turf supply or somewhere where landscapers or contractors go to get their seed. Go in there, kind of tell them what you're up to and say, I want to get the best absolute seed that you have for my project. So this stuff is not going to be cheap, but the best things in life are not cheap. And like I said, don't skimp out on this process here just because it might be slightly more money than going to the store and getting something cheaper. You want the best seed to put down for your project. So the other thing about that seed is to make sure to start thinking about purchasing it now. The reason for that is that I was just in Oregon a couple weeks ago and I got to see the whole grass seed process. And the thing about seed is that there's not an unlimited amount. People probably have in their minds that then you can just produce as much as you want. Well, that's not really the case. There's a certain amount of fields, there's weather involved. How much yield comes out of it is just like any other plant that's growing. So there's not unlimited amounts of these seeds. If you want something, you're gonna want to start thinking about that sooner rather than later, instead of waiting until your project and maybe you can't find the seed that you want or there's limited supply. So make sure to start thinking about that now. The next thing on the list to start thinking about and planning for would be the tools that you need. So if you don't have basic tools like some rakes or maybe you need a spreader to put down the seed, make sure you have these in place because a lot of people get into a project, they forget about the tools that they need, and as soon as they get ready to do the project, they realize they need to go source out a bunch of different things, and then it just delays the project, and it's frustrating when you don't have the tools that you need. So think about what you're gonna need in this process. You're gonna need to scalp down the grass, after you kill it off, so you're gonna need some type of mower and bagger to do that. A lot of times after that, I will thin out the grass using a dethatching machine. If you have already a thin lawn, this probably isn't necessary, but if you're killing off an area that's actually really nice at this point and some thick grass, you're probably gonna need to thin it out in order to get that seed down into the soil layer. So think about that. If you have a bumpy yard right now and you decide to do some leveling, this would be the time to do it as well. So if you need a leveling tool or you need some rakes or whatever you need at that point to do that process, not only the tools, but also the source materials. So if you need some topsoil or whatever you're going to spread on the lawn to smooth it out, start to think about these things now. Lastly, on tools, you don't have to own all this stuff. Remember that you can rent a lot of materials and a lot of tools. So if you're gonna be doing that, also think about it early on so you can maybe get something reserved for your project, and that way you know that you're gonna have the tools that you need. One of the things that's vitally important, just as much as seed, is your irrigation. It's going to be nothing more frustrating than spending all of the time and money on your project and not having watering that covers everything. Can you seed a lawn without irrigation? Yes, it definitely can be done by rainfall. If you plan things correctly, you get some good rainfall at the right times, absolutely it can be done. But ideally, you're going to have either an irrigation system or you're going to come up with some sort of makeshift sprinkler system or just a regular sprinkler that's going to cover the area after you put down the seed. This is going to be vitally important in the success of your project to make sure you have watering, make sure you're watering properly, and you're going to see the best results when you have this in place. Last year I did a project with my neighbor and I talked about all the steps to a renovation in one video. I'll link that right here. One of the things we really talked about was how we figured out watering for his lawn. He's using just a DIY makeshift system that I've been using in my yard before I had an irrigation system. So if you're looking for something that you want to makeshift and you want to get it done, then again, start thinking about this before you get to the day of the project, because it's going to be difficult to get your watering figured out if you get too far into the project and you're just ready to seed. So there's a lot of steps in this process. I know it sounds really complicated, but honestly, it's not that complicated. You just need to know the information going forward. So I have multiple playlists on my channel over the years doing cool season lawn renovations. I've done so many at this point. And also for those of you who maybe want the information a little more quickly, really concise information, I created an entire guide this season. It's over 100 pages of just cool season lawn renovation and overseeding so that I can put that all into one place. You don't have to search through the videos and look through everything. So if you're interested in that, check that out. I'll have a link for that in the description as well. So I hope today this gave you some information on preparing for your lawn renovations this fall. I know it seems early, but like I said, you're going to want to get this process started very soon. Good luck on your projects. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time.